Welcome, everybody. My name is Blake. I'm the community manager here at PolySwarm, and today we're going to be talking about our time at the RSA conference and how things have been going for the PolySwarm team. I'm joined today by Steve Laskowski, our Chief Strategy Officer. How's it going, Steve?
Blake, I'm doing well. Glad it's a Friday, getting ready for a weekend, and then heading out for a series of meetings next week.
Oh, fantastic. Well, then let's kick it off. So how was the RSA conference this year?
Well, Blake, I have to say it was, it took place in San Francisco, and April is always a nice time of year to be there. We had really wonderful weather, and probably more importantly than that, it was a very busy show. A lot of us in the industry were concerned about how many people are going to be showing up for the event, especially when you think about some of the banking crisis in Silicon Valley Bank, which was a big bank for a lot of the technology companies and VCs out there in the San Francisco area, as well as just the current economic headwinds that we're seeing out there in the market, driven by inflation and uncertainty with the geopolitical environment. But the turnout was very, very good. The floor was super busy. When I say the floor is where all the vendors have their booths and people have, badges to get in and meet with the vendors and see what they have to offer. And it's interesting. It was a good show. And I also think they look at the floor. I have what I call the Spotify analogy. When I look at my daughter's Spotify playlist, I see 3 or 4 main acts, like the Harry Styles, Taylor Swift, Doja Cat, and then there's a lot of acts I've never heard of before. And then I go and look at her playlist again, and it's the same 4 acts with a bunch of artists, brand new artists I never heard of before. And that's kind of what the flow was like this year. But it was good, a nice buzz to it.
Well, then, so what's the difference between RSA and the upcoming Black Hat DEF CON conference that's going to be going on in Vegas this year in August?
It's a good question. RSA is much more of what we call business development show. It's a lot of vendor-to-vendor conversations or investors to vendors and partner conversations. A lot of finance folks. And I would probably say 70%, 60% come from those categories and 30 to 40% end users. It's turned much more to a senior management show as opposed to a practitioner show. And the joke is that the food, the drinks are higher quality because of the attendees in that particular case. Black Hat DEF CON is much more of a practitioner show, and it's broken down into 2 parts. You have Black Hat for the first 2 days and then DEF CON for the past 2 days over the weekend. And Black Hat is much more corporate, about $3,000 per person to attend that. And they have a lot of technical talks and managerial talks. DEF CON is much more of a researcher technical focus, where a lot of researchers will discuss brand new vulnerability techniques they use, as well as it's a wide variety of devices that they hack into, all the way from entertainment systems, medical devices, cars, they had some airplane video systems, as well as just typical infrastructure organization. And it's much more of a scene. It's a great social scene where a lot of folks get together every year. And a lot of people even come on their own dime. They'll pay for it to attend, as opposed to folks that attend by Black Hat are typically being, their companies paying for them to travel.
With regards to RSA, what were we hoping to achieve by attending that conference? What was the, I know we sent quite a few people there. There was you, there was Patricia, there was Mike, and I believe even Bassie went. What was the goal with this particular conference?
Yeah, there was actually 6 of us in attendance. And primarily, one of their goals, we kind of fell into 4 categories. First of all, we want to meet existing partners and clients. It's a great way to meet them face to face. And it could also be very productive because you don't have to travel to another city to meet them. You could all just meet while you're all in the same area. And the second one was meeting with new prospects, at the show that we set up ahead of time, as well as through our partner network, which they brought their customers to, or their prospects to, which we had a chance to meet. And we'd also want to find out new issues and trends, impacting our customers as well, just to make sure that we're in sync with their requirements and what our products can deliver. And of course, we want to identify new trends from the vendor side as well. Look at people we can partner with, look at people who are our competitors, what are they doing? And so it kind of falls in those 4 categories.
And what were the major themes here at the conference?
And it was a number of different ones. I think the one that was really big this year was artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and the large language models. That was everywhere. Everybody's talking about it, though. I don't see a lot of product announcements yet. I really expect to see a lot more of that at Black Hat and DEF CON. Microsoft made their announcement about 2 weeks before Black Hat, and as well as Recorded Future, talking about how they really want to be able to train these large language models on their large data set in order to, ask questions or get reports from them very quickly. And it's interesting, we're also seeing some of our end customers do that as well. Another big one was how automation is really continuing to drive a lot of the decisions in our customer base today. And really, when you think about it, automation is the only way to really keep up with the continued volume of threats, as well as decreasing the time to respond to these type of threats. And it's also kind of helping to solve the turnover on these cyber threat intelligence teams that is still happening at a rapid pace. So I think it's probably slowing down now that there's been some layoffs in the industry. Folks are probably not as aggressive looking for a new job in order to increase their salary or title of the company. Another big thing was I thought budgets were holding up very well when I was talking to customers. I think a lot of organizations understand the importance of cyber threat intelligence, the geopolitical risk in the market today that's being driven by, of course, the Ukraine-Russia war. There's some concerns about China and Taiwan. And of course, the ransomware is still large. It's still impacting a lot of organizations, especially the mid-sized companies out there today. But the budgets are doing very well in the industry at the moment. So those are probably, three major themes I saw, when talking to customers out there.
All right, very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more about how the advancements in AI come along, and it's good to hear that budgets are holding up as well. So what was probably, in your opinion, the coolest part of RSA this year? Something that just really stood out to you?
Well, besides the wonderful weather, it was probably 70, 80 degrees and sunny for 3 days straight, which is pretty great for April, especially with the weather they've been having earlier in the year. But on the business side of things, I would have to say it was just really the conversations around AI and these large language models. And it's not only from the vendor side, but also I thought it was very interesting from the end user side. A lot of teams are trying to figure out how they can leverage that in order to get productivity gains from their analyst side internally. So really what they like to be able to do is by using these models, they can make their analysts editors as opposed to writers, which means they'll be able to put out more reports for their internal customers. Because we all know internal threat intelligence teams, they support the SOC, they support senior management with strategic intelligence. Very often they support fraud and risk as well as incident response. And to be able to put together specific reports for each one of those business units faster and more accurate is a huge win for them in there. I mean, there's still also a lot of folks are wondering about the privacy issues that once you train these large language models with your data, how do you make sure that data remains internal and does not leak out outside source? So that's another big issue right now what folks are pretty grappling with. But I would have to say the big thing definitely was AI and the implementation thereof, not only at the vendor side, but also at the end customer side.
All right, very cool. Were there any other industry observations or anything that you heard of?
A couple of things here. I look at this like XDR, which is the next generation endpoint that's being driven a lot by CrowdStrike, Microsoft, and a company called SentinelOne. They're probably the top three out there. I think wholesale adoption is slowing down a bit. It really was an overriding theme for the last 3 to 4 years, and it really propelled companies like CrowdStrike to have amazing, returns on their stock price and the other companies' valuations. So I think that was, it just felt like the analogy is almost like when you do a home renovation. You usually end up spending twice as much money. It takes twice as long and you're only half as satisfied. And I think that's really, probably applies to the rolling out of XDR at these end customer sites. Now, MDR is doing a bit well. MDR means managed detection and response. So that's really having a third party manage those endpoints for you. And I think Microsoft is leading the push. And, of course, they have existing relationships with the customers out there today. with not only the Azure cloud platform, but Office 365, which is the kind of corporate de facto standard. So Microsoft makes it very easy for you if you want to get managed EDR, just to sign up for the next level of Office 365, and they'll manage that for you. So I think they're doing extremely well in that space, as well as some of the managed security providers. People like Arctic Wolf are doing extremely well in the industry right now, focusing on the mid-market. I think another thing was some of the pricing pressure on vendors. I say there's a bit of a commoditization going on right now in regards to threat intelligence, and it's not unusual. That's happened in a lot of industries, and it really, this thing started 10 to 15 years ago with companies like Booz Allen charging, seven figures for contracts. Then you had a company called Eyesight Partners about 7, 8 years ago that would be charging, high six, low seven figures. Then you had companies like Flashpoint, 471, mid six-figure deals. And now you're starting to see the prices come down to low six figures, even 5 figures deals. And I think that's going to have some high implications for organizations that have a lot of what I would call high touch or high manual service or manual input of that data in there. And I think that's really going to also impact some of the tip space as well there. Another interesting one is I think the current generation of SIMs are here to stay. Obviously the SIMs that are primarily installed is Splunk, QRadar by IBM, ArcSight, which is now owned by HP, and Logarithm. There was a lot of talk about these getting ripped out and replaced with the new generation, next generation of SIMs. These are companies like Devo, Exabeam, Google Chronicle, as well as Securonics at the end. But a lot of organizations, I think, find that by ripping something out that's already working, that's key to the organization, is something that a lot of folks don't want to undertake. And as somebody explained to me from a large financial institution, even if you want to do that, you have to run both systems in parallel for 1 to 3 years to make sure that you don't have any downtime or not missing any data. So I think that SIM market is not moving as fast as some of those vendors really thought it would at the end of the day. So those are probably 3 quick observations, above and beyond what I already talked about.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Are you able to talk anything about some of our latest product releases?
Sure. I mean, we have a couple of announcements that we did right around the beginning of the show and since the event itself. And one of them is private communities, which we're in the process of rolling out. And so what I mean by private community is that we are a marketplace business model where we don't actually have our own technology that analyzes the samples. We have relationships with a number of third parties. Some of these are companies like Microsoft, CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Kaspersky, and they have their engines in our marketplace. And we bring in samples from a number of different sources and run it through those various engines, consolidate that data, and basically sell that as subscriptions to our customer base out there to find out if files are malicious or not. Now, the problem with that is kind of what I would call a public swimming pool. This marketplace model is that everybody gets to watch everybody else in that marketplace. So if I can always see if a sample is in there, and if I put a sample in to get analyzed, anybody could query that has a license to our software. And it's almost like I say, it's like jumping into a public swimming pool. It's nice and refreshing, and it's very reasonably priced, but there's people watching you there that you probably don't want to have watching you. What we're doing is we're actually building smaller marketplaces for our customers out there today. And in fact, we're just announced a relationship with Accenture where they're going to be using our private pools to basically support their customers out there today. They're able to add files into our marketplace, but only Accenture or the customer will be able to view the contents and the results of those. And we're going to continue to drive that relationship, not only with Accenture, but other third parties, because there's a big issue, not only with privacy, but of course, there's GDPR concerns with that. And also, you don't want to tip the hand of the adversary to let them know that their tooling or their files have been discovered, because otherwise they may just think these things are still being very done clandestine. So private communities is by far, and we'll be talking about that a lot in the next few weeks. So stay tuned with a couple of blog posts for that. We have a number of new engines coming into our marketplace. As I mentioned before, our marketplace is driven by third-party engines and technologies. And we have a number of very interesting ones that are very, when I say niche oriented, they're very focused on a particular type of behavior. In this case, it's IP and URLs as well as mobile malware. And we have about 5 engines coming on our marketplace in the next 2 months, which we're real excited about. We also have some new sandboxing capabilities. That's been a big requirement from our customers. The sandboxing is able to pull out more information about a particular file that the customer used and build their defenses to safeguard against attacks from that particular family of malware. And we've also come out with a bunch of new feeds that are industry focused. 2 of them are mobile malware, as well as for the energy sector itself.
That's really cool to hear, especially with us branching out into mobile malware energy space with these new engines. But that's really cool to hear that we've got some new partners coming on, and I know that our dealings with Accenture, that's pretty cool too. I know that a lot of people still consider them to be a part of the top 5.
Yeah, people don't realize how big Accenture is. They're by far the world's largest cyber integrator out there today, and they have very deep relationships with Microsoft as well as Palo Alto, and they have a very top-notch group of professional services that are focused on the cyber side. So yeah, they're by far the number 1 out there today. We're excited that they chose us to be one of their infrastructure vendors.
Well, in our previous AMA after Black Hat last year, you had talked a little bit about our relationship with Anomaly, and I'm just curious how that relationship there has matured since then.
Yeah, it's a good question, Blake. First of all, the revenue has increased dramatically, and that's basically what ends up happening in these white label or OEM relationships. When I call a relationship white label, it's kind of like the Costco model, where, like, imagine we're selling peanut butter. Costco puts their label on it as their brand Kirkland, and they sell it in all the Costco stores. It's a great way for us to increase dramatically the number of customers accessing our product at the end. And our OEM is kind of like, we're selling Costco peanut butter, they're adding chocolate, and they're selling Reese's cups. So we have both of those business models. And we really like those because they really can, once again, we can dramatically increase our sales without having to increase our sales and marketing spend as well. Also within Anomaly, we have 4 products that are currently being white labeled with them today that we're selling under their name. So we're continually expanding our relationship with them. And the products that are being sold are branded as Anomaly, and they're sold by the Anomaly sales force. The Anomaly sales force gets paid on it, and it looks like license revenue for Anomaly. So they're able to get anywhere between $20,000 and $60,000 additional for every product they sell, which is a huge win for them. So we're very excited about the relationship, and it's a win for them. It's a win for their customer, and it's a win for us.
What are some things that you're expecting to see come from PolySwarm this year?
Yeah, a couple of areas, Blake. First of all, we're going to continue to go down the white label partnership model. So as I mentioned before, we have basically Accenture and Anomaly are our top 2. We have a number of other ones that are currently in play right now, and we expect to be making some additional announcements over the summer with some additional partnerships with vendors in the threat intelligence space. Our Steve Bassi, our CEO, and Ben Schmidt, our CTO, are very heavily deep into trying to understand how we can leverage these chat GPT LLM models in not only in our products for our customers, but for internal use. Because similar to before, I said that Microsoft and Recorded Future are announced how they're leveraging that because they have these large internal data sets that they would like to be able to quickly correlate and bring that information back to a customer or back to their internal analyst. And similar, we have this large data set of malware in our repository for the past 5 years. So the idea of being able to leverage these models to go deeper into our malware in order to find some interesting correlations as well as to address questions, especially on the ransomware space, much, much faster at the end. So expect to see something from us in the not too distant future in regards to our AI capabilities and functionality in there. And we're also primarily going to be having a new project, which we call the Knowledge Graph Project, which is going to increase the data set of the existing files that we have, which will make it much more actionable for our customers. Like we always say, why should I care? What can I do about it? Those are questions customers always ask. So if we're able to say this belongs to a particular industry which you're in, that's leveraging or an operating system of the products you're currently using, And then we can give you some detailed information about how you can doing your infrastructure on that. That's very, very actionable for our clients. So look at some more actionable intelligence being driven.
Interesting. Yeah, I know I've been seeing a lot more people lately. A lot of people starting to talk about AI, starting to take notice, especially within the cyberspace. I know it's becoming a growing concern as well as a growing interest. Obviously, that's going to be some things that we're going to be hearing about at Black Hat and DEF CON this year. Is there anything else that you're expecting as well, or you could expand on how AI is going to be a one of the focuses of this conference as well?
Yeah, and listen, like I think AI is going to be the number one product announcement in how companies are leveraging it today in their existing products. So that was going to be used to put some lipstick on some older companies. I think a lot of companies similar to ourselves that are more on the cutting edge are really going to be able to leverage what AI can bring into these data sets that we currently have today. So stay tuned on that. I'll be interested to see how well budgets are holding up, especially with the ongoing banking crisis. As most of you folks out there have been reading, is that everybody's worried about the commercial real estate sector, which has been a lot of the loans come from the regional banks. And of course, ever since the crisis, the COVID crisis, and of course, people working at home, organizations don't need as much office space as they've had. And that was an interesting thing in San Francisco is that even people like Salesforce and so forth have a lot more space than what they need right now. And that's going to have some implications in the banking sector. And of course, it all kind of rolls back to budgets at the end of the day, how our customers are going to hold up. I'm really looking forward to some really cool technical talks, especially at DEF CON. I mean, DEF CON is always the event where people want to, talk about a particular a technique or exploit at that event. And typically they target some rather interesting devices in the back end. As I mentioned before, there's been stuff like planes, AV systems. Of course, the EVs is going to be a big topic over here, home security systems, medical devices, the Internet of Things. So I think that's going to be really cool to watch. And I'm also concerned to see how attendance holds up. My gut is that DEF CON is going to be very well attended because a lot of people come on their own dime. And I think a lot of people just, you notice one of the industries that's doing extremely well right now is travel. And so I expect the DEF CON to be very well attended this year. My question is going to be is how many corporate folks are going to be coming into Black Hat because Black Hat's pretty expensive. And if budgets start getting cut, that might impact that. So those are probably the four things I'm looking at Black Hat this year.
All right, fantastic. Well, Steve, that's all I had for you today. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me. I know that you and the sales team are real busy out there killing it right now. So once again, thanks so much for joining us. And for those of you who are listening in, feel free to stop by in the comments and pass off any questions or comments that you might have for us.